The doorbell rang like a warning. When I opened the door, my sister Emily stood there with 4 kids clinging to her legs, Ethan, Olivia, Sophia, and baby Liam. Her mascara was smudged, her car engine still running at the curb. "Just 1 hour, Laura," she said, shoving a diaper bag into my arms. "I need to clear my head." Before I could speak, she was gone, taillights shrinking into the street. An hour passed, then 2, then 10. The note in the diaper bag read only, "I'll be back soon. Thank you." She never came back. And that's how my life and theirs completely changed. My name is Laura Bennett, and back then I was 45 working as a nurse at Mercy General in Sacramento. I lived alone in a rented duplex near the hospital. Quiet neighborhood, faded porch light, the kind of place where nothing dramatic ever happened. I liked it that way. I worked, paid my bills, slept through the noise of the city, and told myself I was content. Emily, my younger sister, was the opposite of quiet. She'd always chased something faster. Married young, had 4 kids by 30, divorced by 31. When she called, it was usually from Chaos Kids, screaming music, blaring her voice, breaking through with a, "You have no idea how hard it is, Laura." I'd listen, calm her down, sometimes send a little money. I didn't judge her. I just thought she needed time. The day she left the kids, I kept believing she'd walk back through that door any minute. I made mac and cheese, kept her phone number pinned to the fridge, and checked my messages every hour. When the phone was finally disconnected, the silence hit me like a second betrayal. The first week, I barely slept. Ethan, 8, tried to act grown reading bedtime stories to his sisters. Olivia, 6, asked every night, "Mom's still shopping," right? Sophia, 4, would hide under my table when the doorbell rang. And little Liam cried until he hiccuped himself to sleep in my arms. I called our parents. They hadn't heard from Emily either. My mother whispered, "She'll come back," but her voice didn't sound convinced. After 2 weeks, I knew the truth no one wanted to say out loud. She'd left for good. Bills stacked up. Formula, school supplies, babysitters. My paycheck barely covered rent. I picked up night shifts, 12 hours on my feet, coming home to sleepy hugs and cold coffee. The neighbors thought I'd lost my mind taking in 4 kids that weren't mine. Maybe I had. But every time one of them laughed, something in me healed a little. There was no dramatic decision, just small ones, signing Ethan and Olivia up for school, filling Sophia's ballet form, teaching Liam to tie his shoes. Somewhere between the late-night feedings and the report charts at work, I stopped being Aunt Laura. I was just Mom, even if I never said it out loud. Still, I kept Emily's note tucked inside the diaper bag, those 4 careless words, "I'll be back soon." Sometimes on the hardest nights, I'd read them again and whisper, "You already came back, Em, just not the way you think." 10 years can pass quietly when you're too busy surviving to count them. By the time I turned 55, the house no longer smelled like disinfectant and takeout. It smelled like life-wet soccer cleats, cheap perfume, burnt toast. My 4 kids, because that's what they'd become, had their own corners of the world now. Ethan was applying to colleges, Olivia sang at school, concerts, Sophia danced in every recital she could afford, and Liam spent weekends covered in grass stains from football practice. I worked days instead of nights. We had routines, inside jokes, 1,000 tiny rituals that stitched us together. On Sundays, we'd pile on the couch, half asleep, watching old movies with popcorn in a mixing bowl. No one said it out loud, but this was a family. Ours. I didn't talk about Emily anymore. The kids had stopped asking around year 3. For them, the silence had become normal. For me, it was the only way to keep the peace inside my own head. Sometimes I'd find that old note in a drawer, those 4 words, "I'll be back soon." I think you already missed everything worth coming back to. Still, a part of me stayed cautious. I kept every school certificate, every doctor's record, every bill with my name on it, proof that I had raised them, that I had built something real. I told myself it was for practical reasons, but deep down I knew it was fear. Fear that one day she'd return and try to take it all. One late afternoon, the house was golden with summer light. Olivia's voice drifted from her room. Sophia's ballet shoes tapped faintly on the floor. Liam's laughter rolled from the backyard. I was folding laundry when the doorbell rang, the same sharp 2-note sound that had changed my life a decade earlier. For a second, my body froze. My mind went blank. Then the sound came again, insistent, familiar. I walked to the door, my heart hammering, like it was trying to warn me. When I opened it, time folded in on itself. Emily stood there, not the exhausted, messy version I remembered, but polished hair, sleek makeup, perfect. Next to her, a man in a tailored suit held a briefcase. "Hello, Laura," she said, smiling like we were strangers meeting for the first time. "This is my lawyer. We need to talk about my children." My hands went cold. Behind me, I could hear the TV shut off footsteps gathering in the hallway. 10 years of peace collapsed in a single breath. The man beside Emily stepped forward, voice smooth and rehearsed. "Michael Johnson," he said, handing me a thick envelope. "Ms. Turner is filing for custody of her children." Custody. The word hit harder than any slap. I stared at him, then at Emily. She crossed her arms, eyes cool, lips painted in some expensive shade of red. "You've been unlawfully keeping them from me for 10 years, she said. "I'm their mother, Laura. You had no right." Behind me, Ethan appeared at the top of the stairs, his voice sharp. "Mom, what's going on?" Emily flinched at the word mom. "See, you even let them call you that." Olivia's voice trembled. "Why are you here? I'm taking you home," Emily said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Sophia began to cry. Liam grabbed my hand, whispering, "I don't want to go." I wanted to scream, to throw her out, to tell her what those kids went through while she was off rebuilding her life. But my voice refused to come out. Instead, I just stood there holding Liam's hand so tightly my knuckles went white. Michael slid a business card onto the table. "The hearing is in 3 weeks. I suggest you get representation." Then they turned and walked out like it was already settled. When the door closed, the silence was suffocating. The kids gathered around me, questions flooding in. Can she do that? Do we have to go? Are we in trouble? I couldn't answer a single one. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in the kitchen. The house that had always felt safe now felt like a ticking clock. On the counter lay the court papers, words blurred through my tears: custody, hearing, defendant. I opened the drawer where I kept things I couldn't throw away, old report cards, drawings, and at the bottom the note from that day: "I'll be back soon." 10 years ago I thought it was meaningless. Now it was proof she'd walked away by choice. My mind started piecing everything together like a nurse rebuilding a broken patient. I'd need evidence, witnesses, anything that could tell the truth louder than her lies. One name rose above the noise: Jason Turner, her ex-husband. He'd gone to prison years ago, but I remembered hearing he was out. Maybe he knew where she'd been all this time. I scrolled through my contacts until I found his number, fingers shaking as I hit call. Jason. "It's Laura," I said when he answered. "Emily's back. She's trying to take the kids." He went quiet for a long moment, then sighed. "I'm not surprised. She's after something. You should come by tomorrow. There's something you need to see." Something in his tone told me this wasn't just about family anymore. It was about truth and maybe, finally, justice. The next afternoon, I drove to Jason's apartment on the edge of town, a rundown complex that smelled of oil and cigarettes. Jason opened the door, looking older, calmer, maybe even regretful. "Come in," he said, moving aside. His living room was sparse: a couch, a TV, a photo of the kids from years ago. He didn't waste time. "I heard what she's doing," he said. "I figured she would, once she found out your parents left you that house." "So this is about money," I murmured. "It always was." He unlocked his phone, scrolled for a moment, then handed it to me. A friend of mine recorded this years ago. He didn't even know who she was until I told him later. The video began in a noisy bar. Emily was laughing, hair blonde, from a bottle, holding a drink like a trophy. 4 kids was just too much, she said. I needed to start over. Let Laura deal with them. Her friends laughed. Someone off camera said something about guilt, and Emily smirked. Guilt, I'm free now. My stomach turned. 10 years of sleepless nights, scraped together meals, missed birthdays, and she called it freedom. Can I use this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Jason nodded. Use whatever you need. I'll testify if it helps. 3 weeks later, the courthouse smelled of floor polish and nerves. The kids sat beside me, dressed in their Sunday best. Olivia clutched Sophia's hand. Ethan's jaw was tight, a mirror of my own. Emily entered like she was stepping onto a stage. Designer dress, confident stride, her lawyer a few steps behind. She didn't even glance at the kids. The bailiff called our case. Judge Robert Davis, gray-haired and stern, took his seat. The room settled into silence. Michael Johnson stood first. Your Honor, my client, Ms. Turner, was suffering from severe depression at the time she temporarily entrusted her children to her sister. Ms. Bennett then refused to return them, cutting off contact entirely. For 10 years, Ms. Turner was denied her rights as a mother. His voice was smooth, practiced. Emily dabbed at imaginary tears. When he finished, David Ross, my lawyer, rose. Your Honor, we have a very different version of events. He handed the judge a folder. Inside is the only note Ms. Turner left. It says, "I'll be back soon." That was 10 years ago. She never returned, never called, never wrote. Ms. Bennett raised these children alone, providing food, shelter, and education, all documented. Emily shook her head dramatically. I tried to call. She blocked me. David didn't flinch. Then why did she change her number? Why did she disconnect her email? And why Your Honor? Did she tell her friends something very different? The judge frowned. What do you mean, counselor? David turned toward the back of the courtroom. We have a witness. The door opened. Jason stepped in wearing a plain shirt and the weight of too many mistakes. Emily's face drained of color as he approached the stand. Mr. Turner, David said, how long have you known Ms. Turner? Since we were teenagers, Jason replied. Married for 10 years, 4 kids. After the divorce, did she maintain contact with her children? No, not once. And do you have something you'd like to present to the court? Jason nodded, unlocking his phone. The bailiff took it, plugged it into the screen. The lights dimmed slightly as the video filled the room. There she was, Emily younger but unmistakable, laughing in that crowded bar. Her words echoed against the courtroom walls. 4 kids was just too much. I needed to start over. Let Laura deal with them. The room went dead silent. The judge leaned forward. Olivia began to cry softly beside me. Ethan reached for her hand. Sophia looked away. Liam pressed against my arm, whispering, "She really said that." Emily stood abruptly. That was taken out of context. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. The judge's voice was sharp. Sit down, Ms. Turner. David spoke quietly but firmly. Your Honor, this is not a case about temporary custody. It's a case about abandonment. The judge turned to Emily. Where have you been living, Ms. Turner? In San Francisco, she said faintly. And how do you support yourself? I have friends, she stammered. Do you own a home? No. Do you have employment? Her lawyer tried to interrupt, but the judge raised a hand. No further questions. He turned toward me. Ms. Bennett, these children appear to be thriving under your care. Would you like to say anything before I make my ruling? I stood, legs trembling. Your Honor, I never asked to be their mother. I just couldn't let them be abandoned. I worked nights. I missed sleep meals, birthdays. I did it because someone had to. I did it because I love them. Ethan suddenly stood too. She's our mom, he said. She's the only one who ever showed up. The judge studied us for a long moment, then nodded. I've heard enough. He looked directly at Emily. Your claim that you were denied access to your children is unsupported by any evidence. The video confirms your intent to abandon them. Full custody is granted to Ms. Bennett. Ms. Turner, you are prohibited from contacting these children without court approval for 7 years. Emily's mouth opened, but no sound came. Her lawyer whispered something, but she just stared ahead, white as paper. As the gavel struck, Olivia sobbed into my shoulder. Sophia wrapped her arms around Liam. Ethan exhaled, shoulders shaking. I wanted to stay strong, but the tears came anyway. Emily was escorted out, still whispering, "They're my kids." The judge didn't even look up. "They were," he said. "You gave them up when you walked away. When it was over, I walked out into the sunlight, the kids surrounding me like a shield." The courthouse doors closed behind us, and for the first time in a decade, I felt the weight lift. Justice didn't roar. It whispered. It came through quiet truths and the kind of love that never needed an apology. The weeks after the trial felt strangely calm, like the air after a storm. Emily disappeared from the city. Her lawyer sent one last notice about appeal options, but nothing ever came of it. Word spread that she'd moved to Modesto, renting a small apartment working at a grocery store. For the first time, I didn't feel angry, just empty. We moved into my parents' old house, the one she'd wanted. It needed repairs, but it was ours. I painted the walls warm yellow, bought secondhand furniture, and let the kids pick their own rooms. The first night, Olivia sang in the hallway while I unpacked dishes. Sophia danced behind her, Liam chased the dog, and Ethan laughed so hard he had to sit down. Dinner that night was simple spaghetti salad, store-brand soda, but it felt like a feast. As I passed the bowl around, Liam looked up and said softly, "Mom, can I have seconds?" Everything stopped. The word hung in the air like a prayer. I nodded, blinking fast. "Yeah, baby, you can." He grinned, piling noodles high. The others smiled too, pretending not to notice the tears in my eyes. For years, I'd fought to give them a life that felt normal. Now, for the first time, it truly was. Outside, crickets hummed. Inside, laughter filled every corner of that little house. It didn't feel borrowed anymore. It felt like home. Some nights, I still sit on the porch after everyone's asleep, the cicadas humming like a lullaby. The moonlight spills across the old diaper bag I kept all these years, the one with her note still inside. "I'll be back soon." She left them for 1 hour. I stayed for a lifetime. Inside, I can hear Ethan talking softly on the phone from his college dorm, Olivia singing in her room, Sophia practicing a dance routine, Liam laughing at something on TV. Each sound is proof that love, not blood, built this family. I don't hate Emily anymore. I don't need to. The truth already did what hate never could it set us free. I close my eyes, whisper to the night. We made it. Have you ever been forced to become the parent someone else refused to be? Share your story below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories like this one. At my sister's wedding, a security guard stopped me at the steps. He held up 2 photos. My children's faces, each stamped in black ink, "Do not admit." Behind him, guests laughed, champagne glasses, clinking camera flashes, catching the perfect light. My father looked away. My stepmother smiled like it was logistics, not cruelty. My 6-year-old asked Mom, "Did we do something bad?" I didn't answer. I handed over the gift envelope and turned around. They thought they'd erased me from their perfect day. They didn't know by sunset their celebration would turn into a reckoning, and I wouldn't have to say a single word. I teach yoga for a living, morning classes at the studio, private sessions in the afternoons, and online ones after my kids go to bed. It's quiet work, calm work. The kind of life where you can hear your own thoughts. I used to think that was peace. Now I know it was just silence I hadn't questioned yet. My name is Rachel. I'm 34, married to Ethan, and we live in a small townhouse where towels never stay on their hooks, and the shoe basket never has the pair you need. We have 2 kids, Noah 6, who carries a dinosaur flashlight everywhere, and Ella 3, who calls strawberries red moons. Our home isn't perfect, but it's ours. The kind of messy warmth that smells like coffee crayons and laundry detergent. Then there's my family, the one that never felt like mine. My father David remarried when I was 12. He used to tell me family is everything, which usually meant don't make things difficult. My stepmother Kira runs our family like a luxury brand. White tablecloth dinners, perfect lighting, and a tone of voice that sounds kind until you listen to the words. And my half-sister Lila, 26, an influencer who calls herself a lifestyle muse. Everything she touches is beige, curated, and filtered. Growing up, Kira called me the strong one. It sounded like praise. It wasn't. It was permission to use me. I carried boxes, fixed chaos, cleaned up messes that weren't mine. When Kira wanted calm, she sent me to soothe my crying baby sister. When Lila wanted attention, she got it. When Dad wanted peace, I gave it to him by swallowing mine. So when Kira called this past May and said, "We need to talk about the wedding," I already knew what that meant. I was at the studio wiping down mats, the air still warm from class. She started with her usual melody, how everything was coming together beautifully. Then her tone shifted soft and heavy, like a hand pressing on my shoulder. "Lila's venue needs a deposit," she said. They mentioned Friday. I didn't respond right away. I'd learned silence could buy me time. "You always step up." "Rachel," she added. The same line she'd used since I was 15. And just like that, I felt the old reflex rise, the urge to help, to fix, to keep things smooth. Dinner that night was a performance as always. Kira's table glittered under soft light. Lila arrived half an hour late, glowing like a commercial. Her fiancé Parker followed behind her polished rich, the kind of man who calls waiters buddy. Kira had a binder, of course. She opened it like scripture revealing glossy pages of venues, flower arrangements, catering menus, all with prices printed neatly beside them. $30,000 in total. She said it casually, like the weather. Just the deposit, sweetheart, she told me. You can handle that, right? My husband, Ethan, looked at me across the table. He didn't say no, but his eyes did. My father raised his glass and said, "Family comes through for family." Lila smiled and added, "It's for love, Rachel." That word love always seemed to mean open your wallet. On the drive home, Ethan was quiet. "You don't have to keep fixing them," he said finally. "I know," I whispered, but I didn't stop. The next morning, I transferred the deposit, half our savings. I told myself it was temporary, that it would come back, that doing right would keep the peace. I didn't know then that peace in our family only existed when I was paying for it. The weeks after that dinner blurred into a slow, familiar pattern: texts from Kira, calls from Lila, and my own guilt disguised as responsibility. Every message had the same rhythm. "We just need one more thing. You're the only one we can count on. The vendor deal ends tonight." At first I said no. Then I said maybe. Then I said fine. Each payment chipped away at something invisible. Not just the balance in our savings account, but a sense of fairness I didn't realize I still believed in. Ethan watched me transfer money like someone watching a slow accident they couldn't stop. "You're letting them rewrite what family means," he said one night. "They're my family," I replied. "If I don't help, who will?" He looked at me quietly. Maybe that's the point. The requests grew. The florist wanted an early retainer. The DJ had a special rate. The videographer needed a deposit before the next couple booked them. Every time I hesitated, Kira would say, "You always step up," and that sentence, those 4 words, felt like a leash snapping around my neck. At yoga, I told my students to breathe, to let go of tension, to stay grounded. But I was the one floating away. The day I realized how far I'd gone was when Kira texted, "No kids at the wedding. Bride's vision is elevated." I stared at the screen for a full minute. My phone buzzed again, another message. "We'll figure something out for you." "We'll figure something out" was code for "you'll bend again." That night over dinner, Noah asked if he could wear his dinosaur tie to Aunt Lila's wedding. He said it with pride, like he'd been invited to something big. Of course I told him, forcing a smile. Ethan watched me. He didn't say a word. Days passed. More invoices arrived. More reminders. I started keeping a list on my phone: venue deposit $12 or $800, catering $8, $750, florist $2, $200, string duo $1, $600, DJ $1, $500, content team $2, $500, 30 grand. Neat, complete. Quiet theft dressed as gratitude. Then came the rehearsal dinner. Kira texted that morning, adults only. Less chaos. Ethan offered to stay home with the kids, but I told him I'd be fine. I wasn't. The moment I walked in, the air changed. Everyone was smiling too much. Lila was glowing in white. My father was playing the proud parent. Kira was in full hostess mode, hugging guests she barely liked. I stood in the corner holding a glass of water like it was armor. Lila came up to me, mid-toast, her hand brushing my arm. "Rach, just so you know, the kids might not be comfortable at the venue. There's so much glass and, well, it's kind of high-end." "High-end," I repeated. She blinked. "Yeah, it's not really kid-proof." Something inside me went cold. "So you're saying my children don't belong?" "Oh, don't make it dramatic," she said, smiling for the guests nearby. "It's just the vibe." The vibe. That word, her whole life. I left early. No scene, no tears. Just the long drive home with the car radio off. Ethan was waiting at the table when I walked in. "What happened?" I shook my head. "They think our kids ruin the vibe." He exhaled slow. "Then maybe it's time we ruin theirs." I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about how peace used to mean obedience, how family had become a tax I kept paying. The next morning, I didn't send the last payment. Kira called within hours. Sweetheart, we need to lock in the content team today. I'll think about it, I said. You know how stressful weddings are, then maybe you should have planned better, I replied before hanging up. It was the first time I'd ever hung up on her. The silence afterward felt like oxygen. I didn't know it yet, but that small act, refusing to send one more dollar, was the first crack in their perfect picture. And cracks have a way of spreading. The silence didn't last. By the next morning, my voicemail was full. One from Kira, fake tears, trembling voice. One from Dad lecturing about doing the right thing. And one from Lila, half crying, half offended that I would make this harder than it needs to be. I ignored them all. That night, Ethan and I sat at the kitchen table, the kids asleep upstairs. The glow from the fridge light fell across our unpaid bills, my yoga class rosters, and the envelope marked wedding expenses. I can't keep funding people who wouldn't even let our children in the room, I said. Ethan leaned back. Then stop trying to explain it. Just document everything. Make it real. So I did, line by line, each transfer, each receipt. I wasn't being petty. I was keeping proof. For years, Kira's power came from gaslighting. She'd rewrite every story until you doubted your own memory. But numbers don't lie. A few days later, my phone lit up with a message from Lila Final payment, due tomorrow. Thank you, sis. I stared at the text, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then I typed back, I've already paid more than anyone else. That's my final contribution. The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, came back. Then, don't make this ugly, Rachel. We're family. Family. That word again, always used as a weapon. I put my phone down. Ethan smiled slightly. That's the sound of a boundary, but boundaries don't stay quiet in my family. 2 days later, Kira showed up at my studio. She looked flawless, cream blazer hair, pinned tight smile, sharpened like glass. My students had just left. The room still smelled faintly of lavender spray and sweat. Rachel, she began softly like she was comforting a patient. We're all under pressure. Lila's falling apart. Your father's heart can't handle the stress. Why are you doing this to us, to you, I said. I paid for half your daughter's wedding. Her lips twitched. You're overreacting. It's just money. It's never just money, it's respect. For a moment, her mask slipped. Then she leaned closer, voice sugar sweet again. You'll regret turning your back on family. I held her gaze. No, I regret waiting this long. She left without another word. The door clicked shut, and I stood there shaking not from fear, but from release. That evening, I drafted an email to Kira, David, Lila, and Parker. Subject: wedding contributions. Breakdown and balance. I listed every expense, every date, every transfer. Then at the bottom, I wrote, as of today, total paid $29,350. You have denied entry to my children at the event I financed. I expect repayment in full. 12 months, first installment due next month. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. I read it twice before hitting send. Ethan put his hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. For the first time, yes. The next morning, my father texted, let's talk privately, sweetheart. Lila posted a story, her wedding countdown, smiling under fairy lights. They still thought I'd stay quiet. They didn't realize that silence when chosen can be the loudest sound in the room. The wedding day arrived like a storm pretending to be sunshine. The morning light streamed through our kitchen window, cutting across the cereal bowls and half-packed bags. Noah wore his little dinosaur tie, proud and wrinkled. Ella twirled in her blue dress, her hair full of uneven curls because she'd insisted on doing it herself. I watched them and thought maybe they'll remember the drive, not the people waiting for us there. Ethan adjusted his collar. You don't have to go, he said quietly. I do, I told him. Just not for them. The venue was 30 minutes away, a restored barn turned into a luxury wedding site, all white walls and fairy lights and curated fields of grass. We drove in silence. The sky was perfect, the kind that photographers call cinematic. I remember thinking how cruel it was that beauty could hide so much ugliness. When we reached the top of the gravel path, the security guard stepped forward. His suit was too formal, his smile too polite. Afternoon, he said. Can I have your name, Rachel? I hesitated. And these are my children, Noah and Ella. He looked down at his clipboard, then pulled out a clear plastic sleeve. Inside were 2 color photos, Noah's school portrait, Ella with her pigtails. Across each face, bold letters read, "Do not admit." I felt the world tilt. "Where did you get those?" My voice sounded foreign, too calm. He glanced toward the entrance. "Bride's request. No minors inside. Liability policy." "There's no policy." I said, "That's my son and daughter." He shifted uneasily. "Ma'am, I don't make the rules." Behind him, I saw Kira step out of the doorway, every inch composed. "Rachel," she said, like we were discussing the weather. "It's not personal, it's just for the aesthetic. Candles, glassware, you understand." My father was a shadow behind her, looking anywhere but at me. And from just inside the barn, I caught a glimpse of Lila in white, perfect trembling, peeking like she was scared to smudge her own illusion. Noah tugged my hand. "Mom, did we do something bad?" I couldn't answer, because anything I said would have cracked my voice wide open. Maya's no, Ethan's hand brushed mine. I felt his pulse steady and angry. I handed Kira the envelope we'd prepared. "Congratulations," I said. My tone was even quiet surgical. Then I turned. The gravel crunched under our shoes. The wind shifted. Behind us, laughter resumed, nervous, brittle. In the car, Noah asked if we were still going to the party. Ella hummed a song she made up about frogs. I just drove. The farther we got from that barn, the easier it was to breathe. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but instinct made me swipe. "Rachel," a deep voice said. "This is Adam, Parker's father." I pulled over, glanced at Ethan. "Yes, I just saw the list," Adam said. "The one with your children's photos." My throat tightened. "I didn't send it." "I know. And I'm calling to tell you the wedding is off. My family won't be part of this circus." Silence. Then he added, his tone colder. "They're on their way to your house to beg. Don't open the door." He hung up before I could speak. 2 hours later, the knocking started. Sharp, desperate. "Rachel." It was Lila's voice, high-pitched, breaking. "Please, let's talk." Behind her, I could hear Kira's controlled tone, the kind she used when she wanted the world to think she was still in charge. "Be reasonable, Rachel. This can be fixed." My father's voice came last small, tired. "Sweetheart, open up." Ethan met my eyes across the room. I didn't move. The knocks grew louder, then quieter, then stopped. Instead, the phone started buzzing, calls, voicemails, texts. I flipped mine face down on the counter. We made grilled cheese sandwiches. Noah dipped his in ketchup. Ella called hers cheese circles. The world felt small, again safe. At 6:14, Kira left a voicemail that began like an apology and ended like a threat. "You embarrassed us," she hissed. "You owe us a conversation. You owe us." At 7:03, Adam called again. "I've canceled every vendor my side paid for," he said. "I won't bankroll cruelty. You'll get partial refunds within 48 hours. Send me your totals." I opened my laptop. The cursor blinked on a blank email waiting. I typed out the numbers, each one like a heartbeat returning to me. Venue $12, $800. Catering, $8, $750, florist, $2, $200, strings, $1, $600, DJ, $1, $500, content team, $2, $500, total $29, $350. Then I wrote the truth. "You denied entry to the event I financed by posting my children's faces under Do Not Admit. I expect repayment in full, 12 months. First payment due next month. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure." I sent it to all of them, Dad, Kira, Lila, Parker, and CC'd Adam. Responses flooded in within minutes. Kira, "How dare you threaten your family? Dad, we can talk privately, sweetheart." Lila, 12 months, LOL. "We're not a bank." Parker, "Give me time to figure things out." Ethan read them with me. "Clear," he said softly. "Good." The next evening, my father showed up in person. He didn't knock long. When I opened the door, he looked smaller than I remembered. "This got out of hand," he said. "You could have handled it quietly." "They printed my kids' faces, Dad," I said. "That's not a mistake. That's a message." He rubbed his temple, sighing. "You could have stayed. For your sister." "You mean for the performance?" I said. "Peace without respect isn't peace, it's silence." He blinked, confused by how calm I sounded. "I don't recognize you," he murmured. "I know," I said. "For once, I recognize myself." He left without slamming the door. That I decided was progress. The following morning, Kira posted a long Facebook caption about protecting your joy from jealous people. My cousin sent me a screenshot. I didn't reply. At noon, Adam's email came through, refund summary attached. He'd clawed back $6 and $200 and wired it to me. The note read, "Applied to your totals. Parker will cover the rest. If he doesn't, I will. I won't be associated with people who blacklist toddlers." For the first time in weeks, I laughed. A real laugh. Days turned into weeks. Lila's tone shifted from rage to guilt to bargaining. "Let's talk like adults," she texted. 10 minutes later, wow, ignoring me, power trip much. Then a photo of her red eyes captioned, "This is what you did." I didn't respond. Instead, I kept teaching. I told my students to breathe into the discomfort to find strength in stillness. What I didn't tell them was that I was finally learning to do it too. Then one afternoon, Lila showed up at my studio door, sunglasses, bun, trembling hands. She took them off, eyes swollen. "You made a scene," she said. "You made a list," I replied. "It wasn't personal. It was a picture of my son," I said. "You let it exist." She exhaled, voice cracking. "Mom says you've always hated me. I've always paid for you," I said. "There's a difference." She looked down. "So what now?" I folded my arms. "We say hello at birthdays. We don't exchange money. We don't use guilt as love." Lila nodded slowly, like a student hearing a lesson too late. "Parker and I got married at the courthouse yesterday," she said. "You weren't invited." "Good," I said. She blinked, caught off guard by how little that hurt me. "They'll keep paying," she said. "Good," I repeated, because this time good wasn't surrender. It was freedom. By autumn, the payments came on schedule, small digital echoes of accountability. Each month, a quiet ping in my inbox, transfer received. The memo lines almost made me smile. For peace, for closure, for lesson learned. By the 9th month, the final deposit cleared. Adam sent one last email, applied remaining vendor credit. "Your balance is 0. You did right by your family. That matters." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I opened my old note labeled Lila Wedding and typed one last line, "Balance $0." I didn't delete it. Some records deserve to stay. That night, my father invited us for a barbecue. I almost said no, but Ethan looked at me and I nodded. The backyard smelled like charcoal and rain. Dad flipped burgers. He looked older, quieter. He asked Noah about school, asked Ella what her favorite color was. Finally, he turned to me. "You're different," he said. "I'm better," I replied. He nodded as if that was a door he might finally walk through. On the drive home, the sky turned soft and orange. Ethan reached across the console, squeezed my hand. "You did it," he said. "I didn't fix them," I said. "I fixed me." At home, Noah chased Ella through the hallway. Towels fell from their hooks. Shoes scattered everywhere. Ordinary chaos, the kind that's ours alone. Peace. This time didn't feel like silence. It felt earned. Some people still say I overreacted, that it was just a wedding, but those people have never seen their children's faces printed under the words, "Do not admit." I didn't slam doors. I didn't shout. I just stopped standing where I was told to stand. That was enough. Being the good daughter used to mean staying quiet no matter the cost. Now it means protecting my kids, my peace, and the home we built. If you've ever had to draw that line, if you've ever walked away instead of bowing down, share your story. You're not alone.